Okay, so when you're adding or subtracting fractions, there's just a few steps that you can do every single time. Step one is find a common denominator. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Step two is make equal fractions or equivalent fractions. And step three is just add or subtract the top numbers. But the first step is always the same. You have to have common denominators. That means the same bottom number. Right now you can see we don't. So what I'm going to do, step one, I don't even need to do any math. I can just make two new fractions underneath, and we'll call them empty fractions because they don't have numbers yet in them, but that's your starting point. Then I need to find a number, that 4 and 5 both go into. Now the easiest way to do that is just to multiply 4 times 5. Sometimes there's shorter ways, but for simplicity's sake, 4 times 5 is the way to go. So 4 times 5 is 20, and that is actually the lowest common denominator for this one. So that's step one, find a common denominator, a number that 4 and 5 both go into. Both of these bottom numbers go into these, right? Second step is make equal fractions. So I want an equal fraction for 1/4, but that needs to be out of 20. And I need another fraction for 2/5, that's out of 120. But these are going to be equal, and these are going to be equal. They have to be. You can't change the value, otherwise the whole question is not going to work. So make equal fractions. And the way that I do that is whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. Whatever I multiply the bottom by, I multiply the top by. Or divide, you could do it that way too, but generally we multiply. So how did I go from 5 to 20? I multiplied by 4. So whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. I multiply the top by 4. So 2 times 4 is 8. On this side, I multiply by 5. So 4 times 5 is 20. 1 times 5 is 5. Okay, so now I have equal fractions. If I were to make this a decimal to see the value of it, I'd go 1 divided by 4, and I would get decimal 25, right? 5 divided by 20 is also decimal 25. Same with on this side, 2 divided by 5 is decimal 4, 8 divided by 20 is also decimal 4. Okay, so I have equal fractions, and now I have common denominators. So I just add the top, 5 plus 8 is 13, and if I can, sometimes there's a fourth step. If this can be reduced to simplest terms, that's worth your 4th mark. That's your final step. You don't have to do that, it's not part of adding, but sometimes questions ask you to reduce, okay? So that's how to add fractions. Let's look at a subtraction question. It's very, very similar, only you subtract the top number. So let's make up a different one. Let's use one that's a common one. Something like maybe 5/9 minus, actually let's do 6 over 9 minus 1/3. 1 over 6. So I can multiply these two together to get 54, and I will get the right answer for sure, but my numbers are going to be bigger. Sometimes you can find smaller common denominators, often called the lowest common denominator, and for 9 and 6, it's 18. That's the smallest number that both of them go into. Now, let me reiterate, you can use 54. That'd be just fine. You'll get the right answer, but you're working with bigger numbers. So let's use this one, the lowest common denominator. So find a common denominator. We've done that. 9 goes into 18, 6 goes into 18. Okay, they both go into 18. Step 2, make equal fractions. So whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So what did I do to 9 to get 18? I times by 2, so I multiply 6 by 2 and I get 12. What did I do to 6 to get 18? I multiply by 3. So 1 times 3 is 3. Okay, now I have equal fractions. This is the same. These two are the same. They're the same value anyway, different numbers. So all I do is subtract the top. 12 minus 3 is 9 out of 18. Okay, now that is, if I've done it correctly, that is 3 marks out of 4. You're proficient. That's really well done. You've shown that you're very good at adding. But this isn't in lowest terms. These are both divisible by 3, right? And they're divisible by 9 actually. So if I divide them both by 9, I get 1 over 2, and that is this fraction's answer in lowest term. So if we were marking on a test, you get 1 mark for getting the common denominators. You get 1 mark for equivalent fractions. You get 1 mark for the correct value, 3 marks, and then you get a 4th mark, you're extending, comes from reducing. Okay, that's it. That's how to add and subtract fractions.